Okay, class, in this video we're going to look at basic drawing commands, okay? We're going to look at the line command, and we're going to look at drawing lines using three of the primary methods for drawing a line. And this will lead us into our first exercise, or actually our first series of exercises with our basic drawing and editing. All right, so to get things started, this is your Canvas site, and I'm going to expand on Module 1, Basic Drawing and Editing. And you can see I have a page here called Drawing Lines. All right, let's open that page up. And at the top of the page, I list the three methods that we're going to look at in this video right now. We're going to look at drawing lines using direct distance entry, drawing lines using relative Cartesian coordinates, and drawing lines using relative polar coordinates. Okay. By the way, this is a good page for you to have up while you're working on your first few drawings until you start to build in just the knowledge of how this process works. Okay. For relative Cartesian coordinates, the way we're going to be drawing is shown here. So when I pick my first point, and let's say I'm picking my point right here, I want to draw a line then that is 10 units long in the x direction and 6 units long in the y direction. So essentially from here to here. Okay. In order to draw that line using relative Cartesian coordinates, I'm going to type in, after I pick this point, at 10, 6. The at symbol tells AutoCAD that this is a relative coordinate move. All right. The 10 is the distance in the x direction, and the 6 is the distance in the y direction. Okay, so the syntax for this, for relative Cartesian coordinates, is always at the x distance, comma, and then the y distance. All right, when we draw relative polar coordinates, it's going to be a little bit similar, but we're going to be using angles instead of distances in the x and y direction. So in order to draw the same line, after we pick this first point, we want to enter the distance of the line. So now look, the line is 12 units long, not in the x direction or in the y direction, but the true length of the line is 12 units long. And the angle, as measured from due east, which is 0 degrees, and then a positive angle is in the counterclockwise direction, this line is going to be at 30 degrees. So in order to draw this line, after I select this point, I'm going to type in at 12, and then this is the left bracket or the shift comma, which is the angle symbol, 30. Okay, so at, again, tells AutoCAD that this is a relative coordinate motion. 12 is the distance, and 30 is the angle. So you can see that entry right there. In addition, I've put down 4 of the key helper tools when you're drawing lines. We're not going to look at all of these right now, but I do want you to be aware of these because while we're drawing, you may want to turn these on and off. I may ask you to turn them on and off, or I may do that as well. So you should be aware of what I'm doing. The first one is dynamic input, and its location on the status bar is here. Second is polar tracking, which is right here. Ortho mode is in between polar tracking and dynamic input. And then finally, object snap is over here on the right on the status bar. All right. Now, we're not going to look at all of these right now. In fact, we're only really going to look at dynamic input, but I'll show you how we can deal with these when we get into AutoCAD. Speaking of getting into AutoCAD, let's do that right now. So I'm going to pull up my AutoCAD. I also want to go through, again, the process of starting a new drawing file. We'll go through saving, and we'll also go through preparing a plot with a PDF file, or as a PDF file. So I want to start with a template, and I'm going to start with the ACAD template. All right. Now, a couple things I want to make sure that I'm set up properly. I want to make sure you're set up properly. So just to get things started, I'm going to go down here to the status bar. I'm going to turn off dynamic input. I'll turn it on in a bit. I'm going to turn it off right now. I also want to turn off polar tracking, and I want to turn off object snap. Okay. Notice my other settings. I think I talked about this in the first video. I have snap mode off. We never want to draw with snap mode. All right, never want to draw with snap mode. All right, so now to start our drawing, we're going to go up to the line command and pick with the left mouse button, and then we come over here and we have the crosshair, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to specify our first point, okay? And you can see that down on the command line right there, specify first point. So I'm just going to pick a point right here. And when I pick a point, I get this rubber banding, right? So it's anchored there at that point, and I'm stretching it out. Right now I'm just moving my mouse around. Notice on the command line, it says specify next point, all right? So this is where we want to enter our relative coordinate entry, whether we're doing Cartesian or polar. So let's do that line that I just did with the 10, 6. So we're going to type in the @ symbol, 10, 6. Now, what I want to impress upon you, and this is a tendency of new users, AutoCAD, when I start typing, AutoCAD automatically enters the things that I type into the command line. All right. Notice at no point did I move my cursor down here and click. All right. So we don't have to do that. We just have to type in @ 10, 6. When I'm done typing that in, I'm going to hit enter. All right. And there's my line. All right. So let me undo that, and we'll do that again. All right, now this is a good tip. All right, the undo command is a great command. Undo is this button right up here on the quick access toolbar. Undo, and we can go back. All right, now since that was the only line that I had, it undid the whole thing. So let's go and do that again. All right, go to the line, pick on the first point. All right, and then what's interesting now, what you should note, is that I'm really doing nothing with the mouse anymore. All right, so I am letting go of the mouse. You can't see it, but I'm letting go of the mouse, and I'm just going to type in @ 10, 6. Or actually, let's change it up. Let's backspace and let's go 8, 12. All right. So again, when I type in, it automatically goes to the command line. I don't have to move the cursor. I'm not touching the mouse. I enter in my values at 8, 12 or at x, y. I hit enter, and there we go. Okay. Now let's do another line. Let's go at. Now let's say in this space, this time I want to go down a little bit. I want to go kind of over here. So we could imagine that that's going to be in the x direction, still a positive motion. So let's say maybe that's 4, right? But in the y direction now, I'm moving down. So how do I draw going down? So let's go 8, minus. Actually, let's go 4, minus 4. All right. So minus 4 says that we're going in the negative y direction or down. So I'm going to type in at 4, minus 4 and hit enter. And there we go. Oh, I was close. Wasn't exactly on. All right. Let's move again. And just to, I'm using the crosshair of the mouse just to kind of show you where I'm trying to go. So let's move over like this. Okay. So again, based on our last point, based on our previous point, if I want to move in this direction to draw the line that I have kind of stretched out right there, I'm going to type in the @ symbol. And this time I want to go in the negative x direction because I'm going to the left. I want to go in the negative x direction. So I'm going to go minus 6, and I'm still going down. From my previous point, I'm still going down. Let's say I'm going 3 units down, so minus 3. So I'm going to type in at -6, -3. All right, and let's hit enter and see how close I am. Ooh, that was even better. Okay, so that's how we draw using relative Cartesian coordinates. Okay, it's at x, y. A positive x is to the right, a negative x is to the left. Y, a positive y is up, a negative y is down. Okay, so I'm going to end the command by hitting enter or the escape key or the space bar. All right, so The next thing I wanted to show you so in order to prepare for going and looking at relative polar coordinates, let's move this drawing over. So to move this drawing over, we're just going to look at a couple of really basic ways to move and pan and zoom, and that is the mouse. Okay, so if I push down on the mouse wheel and move the mouse, you can see the pan symbol comes up, which is a hand. All right, if I roll the mouse wheel, it shrinks and enlarges, right? I don't really want to do that, but I just want to move it to the side so I have some space here to draw. All right, so now let's look at relative polar coordinates. So again, I'm going to go up to the line command, and I'm going to pick my first point right here. And now I want to specify my line. I want to go somewhere over here, which is, let's say, at an angle of 30 degrees, right? So this is 0 degrees, this is about 30, this is about 45, this is about 60, this is 90, 150, or actually 150 is more down here, 180, 270, 330. I'm just moving around in a counterclockwise direction. So if I want to draw over here, this is about 30 degrees from due east, and let's say it's 12 units long, so I'm going to type in at 12, the angle symbol, which is shift comma, and then 30. I hit enter. Wow, that was pretty good, huh? I'm right on. All right, so let's try that again, but let's go down in this direction. Okay, so I would say that line that I have drawn is about 6 units long. Okay, at 6 is the distance, angle symbol. Now, what angle is that going to be? Well, if we look at due east, we're actually, and moving in a counterclockwise direction, we're actually coming all the way around from due east all the way through north, west, and then coming down to south, and then another 30 degrees, it looks like, maybe from south. That's going to be 270 plus 30, which is 300 degrees. Okay, so let's see, at 6 at an angle of 300. Whoops, 300. Let's see how close I am. Oh, not too bad. Angle was a little bit off. Probably was closer to 25 degrees. All right, so now if I want to move back like this, let's say that that distance, again, at 10, that's about 10 units long, at an angle of, now what angle is that? Again, if we start from due east and we go 90 is due north, and then we come around 180 degrees is due west, it looks like it's about 20 degrees past due west, so that would be about 200 degrees. And I hit enter. Oh, pretty good. Okay. So those are the relative coordinate drawing methods, polar and Cartesian. Now, let me just do a couple of examples more of this, and basically what I want to do is show you what happens when it goes wrong, or when you type in something wrong, and how to fix it. Because, you know, if you're going to type in everything perfectly, then you're probably an experienced AutoCAD user. So let's say that I want to draw a line going in this direction. Okay. Now it doesn't matter whether I choose polar or Cartesian. In fact, I can mix up the two as I'm drawing. Right. I don't have to stick with one or the other. So in this case, I want to draw a line. Let's say that line is 10 units long. And what angle would that be? Well, if this is 90 degrees, this is going to be maybe 90 plus 20 is 110. So we'll go at 10, 110. But this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to, on purpose, forget to put the at symbol in. So I'm just going to go 10 at an angle of 110. All right. So I've left off the at symbol. So what do you think is going to happen? Well, when we leave off the at symbol, let me hit enter. Wow, what the heck happened there? So what happens is when we leave off the at symbol, it switches to absolute coordinates. And what we just drew was a line that is 10 units long, 110 degrees from the origin. All right, and the origin is somewhere over on the left. I can scroll over here. There it is right there. All right, so the origin is right here. So 10 units from the origin, 110 degrees, that's where I was. Now, obviously that's not what I wanted to do. So how do I fix this, right? You could do this in your drawing. How do we fix it? Do we have to just scrap the drawing? Do we erase everything? Do we turn off the computer? What's our recourse here? It's very easy. We type in U, okay? The U key is the shortcut for undo, and it's very helpful. In fact, you can see it down on the command line. It says close, exit, and undo. Notice that there's a capital letter in each one of those. Capital C in close, capital X in exit, capital U in undo. The capital letter signifies the one letter shortcut for that command. So typing in U, watch what happens. I hit U and hit enter, and it takes me back here. Okay? So the U command is a good way if you have a whoopsie, and you forget the @ symbol or you type in the wrong distances or whatever. Just hit U and enter. Again, let me reiterate, at no point have I ever moved the cursor down to the command line. All right, we do not need to move the cursor down here to type in anything. All right, now let's see what happens if we do a relative Cartesian coordinate, again with forgetting the @ symbol. So maybe I want to draw this line again, right? So I said that was 10 at an angle of 110 degrees, right? So let's say that in the relative Cartesian world, that's going to be in the negative x direction, maybe 5 in the negative x direction, and it's in the positive y direction. It's maybe 10 in the positive y direction. So I'm going to type in -8, 10. Again, I'm forgetting the @ symbol on purpose just to show you what happens. So, hey, everything's good. I type in -8, 10, and I hit enter, and what happens? Wow, again, what the heck, right? Well, again, what happened was it went to the -8, 10 in the absolute system, right? This is the origin, so it's 8 in the x direction and 10 in the y direction. 8 in the negative x direction and 10 in the positive y direction. So, and again, that's not what I wanted. So how do we fix that? All right, we don't freak out. We just hit U and enter. All right. So now, just real quickly, so you might be curious, what does the close do? So let's type C and hit enter and see what happens. Hey, look at that. It closes and ends the command. All right, you probably already guessed that. All right, now let's look at the last method that we're going to look at, which is direct distance entry. This, for my money, this is 99.9% of the time you're going to just use direct distance entry. And what it literally means is you're going to type in the distances that you want to travel. Now there's a couple of tools that really help do this, okay, that really help with this method. So I'm going to pan everything over so I have some drawing space over here. And what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to turn on dynamic input. So I'm going to go down here to the status bar and I'm going to turn that on, because that's going to really help me. Okay. The next thing I'm going to turn on is I'm going to turn on polar tracking. All right. Now, not only am I going to turn on polar tracking, but I'm going to click the little down triangle next to it, and I'm going to verify. I want to show you what polar tracking I have on right now. So I have polar tracking for 30, 60, 90, 120, and so on. Okay, so those are the angles that AutoCAD is going to kind of prompt me with, those green dash lines. All right, so you'll see. I'm going to leave this at 30, 60, 90, and we're going to turn polar tracking on. All right, so again, I have dynamic input on and polar tracking on. And now let's start with direct distance entry. So we'll go to the line command, and notice now the command line has been moved up, shifted up to my crosshair. All right, so I'm going to specify my first point, pick, and now I can stretch out, and look what it tells us, right? Right away, it tells us this is essentially relative polar coordinates, but it's right in front of our face. And so we can type in the distance that we want, 10. Now here's the question, how do we jump? Notice that when I typed in, the blue box was around the distance, and so when I type in, that's where it goes, and I type in 10. But how do you think I jump over to the 21 and change that to, let's say, 30 degrees? Okay. Well, we do that with the tab key. So if I hit tab, now it jumps over there. Notice that the 10 has a lock symbol there, so that's locked in. So I can go 30. Is it really locked? No. If we need to change that, let's hit tab and go back again. Hey, there we go. Let's go 8. All right. And then when we're all good, we hit enter. So that's direct distance entry. I'm literally typing in the distances in addition to the angle. We don't have to type in the angle. It'll just move at that angle. What if we don't type in the angle? Well, then we're just moving in the direction that we wanted to go. So if I wanted to draw it over here, I could do 6, enter, right? So what angle did I draw that? Whatever angle it was drawn at, it was showing. So I could do 6, and notice I'm coming down a little bit, so I'm directly entering the distance. I'm ignoring the angle and hit enter, and it goes down. Now, that's a quick method to draw, right? But it's also very inaccurate because I don't know what angle I was just drawing at. And when it says that it's drawing at 15 degrees, it's not really 15 degrees or 20 degrees because I'm freehanding it there. AutoCAD only shows you a certain number of decimal places. That doesn't mean that the other decimal places are all 0. Okay, so I can never really be sure of my accuracy doing that method until and if I use my polar tracking. So now look, let me hit escape to get out of this, and let's go back to the line command. So let's say I wanted to draw a square. Let's make the square 10 units. All right, so I can click to start, and watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to use polar tracking to get the 0 degrees. Now this is in fact an accurate 0 degrees. Okay, so I can just type in 10 and hit enter. All right, what you can't see is that I'm not touching the mouse. Now I'm grabbing the mouse and I'm going to move up. I'm using the mouse to only, let me move this a little bit, to only indicate the angle, right? I have my polar tracking locked on to 90 degrees, and I'm going to type in 10 and hit enter. And I move across and type in 10 and hit enter. And then, well, I can type in C to close. All right, let's do that one more time. When we pan over here, let's go back to the line command. Let's do an 8 unit square, but let's do it rotated at 30 degrees. All right, so I'm going to specify my first point here, and I'm going to use polar tracking to get, look at that, 30 degrees is locked in, so I can type in 8 and hit enter. And then I go over here and I type in 8 and hit enter. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to type in 8 and hit enter. And I'm going to hit C to close. Okay. All right. So there we have our 3 top drawing methods: relative Cartesian coordinates, relative polar coordinates, and direct distance entry using dynamic input and polar tracking. All right. We also looked at the undo command and things that could go wrong if we forget the @ symbol and how to fix that. Let's finish up right now by saving this drawing file. We'll also prepare it for plotting by saving it as by printing it as a PDF file, so that you're ready to submit it if you are going to submit this drawing file. This is not an assigned drawing file, but you can still practice that. All right, so to save it, I'm going to go up to the application menu and say save. And then I want to make sure I'm in my right folder to save it. So I'm going to go to MDT department. This is my folder, right? You're not going to have that. Summer 2020. And I'm going to call this doodle, or actually let's call this lines, and hit enter. All right. I got to figure out how to turn that off. I don't want that to keep coming up. You know, sometimes annoying things happen with the software. All right, so I've saved it. You can see the path right there. All right, and now I'm ready to print this to a PDF file so that I can submit it. which again, you're not going to submit. This is not an assignment, but we're just practicing. So we go up here to the application menu and we choose print. And remember our graphic that we have on Canvas for doing this. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to choose the printer, which is the AutoCAD PDF high quality print. The paper size is fine right now, 8.5 by 11. We want to plot the extents. We want to center the plot. I want to preview it first. Okay, that's good. Right click and hit enter, and then we say OK. And that's going to make my lines dash model PDF. The dash model is added on because that was a plot from model space. So I want to save this in the folder MDT 145 summer 2020, and lines.pdf is good. Save. And then there we go. It opens it up and we can see what that looks like. All right. It's not a very exciting drawing, but we did cover a lot of information, especially good information about lines and how we can draw the lines. So that's all ready to submit if we need to do that. Let's just reiterate again. Let's go back to Canvas. So we looked at these 3 drawing line methods. Okay, remember that we have these tips up here for you to pull up. Let me go back to the modules. The next thing that we're going to look at is we're going to look at drawing assignment 1.1, the square cow. Okay, so until then, let me know if you have any questions or any problems. Thanks.